I'll be using. Okay. Alright, so right here, you're going to have your frontal bone. You're going to have your parietal bones right here. On the sides, you're going to have your temporal bone right there. And then in the back, you're going to have your occipital bone right here. Then we're going to have the coronal suture right there. The sagittal suture, which runs through the middle. Then if the skull was labeled, we would have our squamous suture right here. And then running along the back, we would have our lambdoid suture. Okay, and then in the front, we're going to have our nasal bone right there. And then we would have our maxilla bone right here. And then on the side right here, we're going to have our mandible bone. And then this little hole right here is going to be the mental foramen. And then running along the back is going to be the mandibular ramus right here. And then we're going to have the mandibular notch, which is going to be this little area right here. And then in the back, we're going to have the mandibular condyle right here. And then the coronoid process of the mandible is going to be right here. And then right here, you're going to have your zygomatic bones. And then if the skull was labeled, you would have your sphenoid bone right here. And then inside here, you're going to have your ethmoid bone. And then alongside the ethmoid bone, we're going to have our lacrimal bone, which is going to be up in here. And then beside that, inside the orbit of the eye, we're going to have our nasolacrimal bone. And then the supraorbital foramens, if the skull was labeled, would be right up here. And then at the bottom, we have our infraorbital foramens, which is going to be right here. These two holes right there. And then inside the eye, we're going to have our superior orbital fissure, which is going to be these top two holes right here. And then the bottom two holes are going to be the inferior orbital fissures. Then we're going to have our vomer bone, which is going to be in here. The perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone is going to be this top line right in here. Then we're going to have our middle and our inferior conchs. And then down here, we're going to have our anterior nasal spine right here. And then the external auditory meatus is going to be this hole right here. And then at the top, we would have our glabella, which would be known as the forehead. And then inside here, we're going to have our greater and lesser wings of the sphenoid bones. We're going to be up in here. And then the optic canal is going to be back in here in the eye. Okay, then we're going to take the skull off. I'm going to set it on the ground. Then in here, we're going to have our foramen rotundum right here, this hole right there. Then we're going to have our foramen oval, which is going to be right here. And then our foramen lacerum, which is going to be this hole right here. And then this last little hole right here is going to be our foramen spinosum. Then right here, we're going to have our carotid canal. Then this hole right here is going to be our jugular foramen. Okay. Right in here, we're going to have our palatine bone right here. Then our incisive fossa is going to be this little place right in here. Then we're going to have our greater palatine foramen, which is going to be this hole right there. Then this big hole right here is going to be our foramen magnum. Then on the side right here, we're going to have our mastoid process, this piece right here. Then we're going to have our styloid process right here. Then we're going to have our stylomastoid foramen, which is going to be right here, this hole right here. Then our crista Gailey, we're going to have, which is going to be this piece right here. And our cribriform plates are going to be right here. Our sella turcica is going to be in here. And then the last but not least, we're going to have our internal auditory meatus right in here. And that completes the 50 terms for this week's skull.